Could you imagine if Hope was like, let's add that to the PowerPoint? Excuse
What
me?
year is it?
How old am I? This is how a podcast breaks up.
This is the last episode of Supergirl Radio. You want a Kryptonian? You've got one.
Is it a movie about saving Argo? The answer to that one is no. It's called Witch for a Summer! Exclamation point. Where does she want to go? Ask her. Talk to her. Really commune with flat Supergirl.
Did we set the bar too high or too low?
I think we set the bar real medium.
You're doing an intensely adequate podcast.
Good.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Noyce, and you're listening to Supergirl Radio.
McGurk! I love
Not
typing.
mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira.
I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom, because her outfit,
She looks like a boss in this coat.
Is Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. So fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Welcome to Supergirl Radio of Tomorrow, your source for Tom King's comic run on Supergirl titled Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. My name is Rebecca Johnson.
I'm Morgan Glennon.
And for this episode of the podcast, we are going to discuss and review Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow number 3, which was written by Tom King, penciled and inked by Bilquis and colored by Mateus Lopez. And if I've mispronounced anybody's names, please forgive me. We'll have to have them on the podcast and then get them to correct us every time we mispronounce their names. And
that would be cool and also a little mortifying, which we deserve.
which we 100% deserve. But also, we would like to ask them about their art. So maybe one day they'll be up for that. So we'll keep that in the back of our minds. This description for this issue number 3 reads, quote, Supergirl's journey across the cosmos continues. Her hunt to bring the killer Krem to justice brings her and the young alien in her care to a small planet where they discover that there are still some very small mines even on the outer edges of the galaxy. The cold welcome the locals give the Woman of Steel makes her suspicious enough to go looking for secrets that they want to keep buried, quite literally. And what she finds is nothing short of horrifying. Can she and Ruthie get off the planet alive now that these deadly sins have been exposed, unquote. And so we're gonna talk about issue number 3. But I think before we get into the 3rd issue of Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, which I'm very excited to talk about, it was a great issue. But I think we should start with a change in how we consume comics. And this has happened since the last issue that we read, issue number 2. This is a new change because we've been accustomed to using Comixology. For
a great
digital
app. R.I.P. May it live on in our memories.
It was so user-friendly back then.
I knew how things worked then.
I used to be able to find my comics. So
not anymore. No longer.
No
Amazon's fixed it for you.
So we wanted to briefly, maybe not briefly, this could go on for a long time, I don't know, but we wanted to address the change in Comixology just in case other people are having these same issues. I talked to Andy Babak to the Flash podcast, and he was like, "Oh, the new Comixology stinks," and I was like, "Yeah, I know it sucks. I hate it." So this may be something that other people are experiencing, and so we wanted to address some of the concerns that we had. So Morgan, I'm curious, when you wanted to go read Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow #3, what was your experience when you tried to read it?
So I was like, okay, I haven't been on Comixology in a while. And I did get those emails that was like, hey, Comixology is about to be completely different. And I was like, cool, I don't care. Whatever. That's a problem for future Morgan. She's going to handle that just fine. And I had to go to like an appointment today. So I was in like a waiting room and I was like reading it on my phone. Not the preferred experience, I would say. But it does work fine on your phone. It's like a little bit like you're a little bit like this and you're like kind of zooming in. It's not great on the phone, but it does the job. And then I got home and I was like, okay, finally I can read them the way that they're meant to be read, like not this small. And off I went to log in to Comixology, which is now like part of the Amazon umbrella. And it popped up and it's like, welcome to the new Comixology. Good luck. And and so like the thing popped up and it was like, click here to find your books. And I was like, okay, thank you, helpful pop-up. And I clicked on the pop-up and it took me nowhere. It took me out to the main page of Amazon. I kid you not. And so I'm on the main page of Amazon and I'm like, I'm a books here?
Yeah, it's impossible. It sounds like you were able to eventually find them, but I had the same experience. It looks like Amazon when you go to Comixology.com. It looks like Amazon. And then I couldn't figure out where, because I know I've bought books.
Yeah.
Is it in my library?
So what you do is you go to Comixology.com and it takes you to like an Amazon Kindle Comixology landing page. Don't follow the directions that it tells you, like click here to find your books. Don't do that. It's a trick. It's a trap. What you gotta do is just like go to the main page and then it says Comixology and then up at the top there's like a bar. And at some point in the bar where it's like comic deals and like graphic novels, at some point, not called out in any way, is My Library. So when you click on My Library, you can see everything in your Kindle store. So like there's comics, books. I made the mistake of clicking on all titles because I thought all titles, Rebecca, is going to be all of the comics. And no, all titles is everything you've ever bought. If you're a big reader and you read a lot of Kindle books, all of a sudden it was like all of Wheel of Time was available to me. And I was like, no.
It wasn't just your comics?
No, it was everything. It was all of my books were all right there and mingled in with the comics. So if you're like trying to find something specific, good luck. And then my other issue that I had, and this was the one that caused me even more problems, is that if you can see in this screenshot, you can see the beginning title of everything, but how am I to know? My eyesight's not great. How am I to know which one is number 3? Like the 3 is all the way up top, very, very tiny. And so I'm sitting here like I'm like, enhance, like like I'm on a CSI show trying to figure out like what the title is. The only way to do it, and here's a workaround in case you, like me, have learned to hate this new Comixology app, is that when you're in that comics view, you can go ahead and like view it as a list instead of a grid.
Yeah.
And the list will show you. Yes.
Yeah.
Will show you like number 3, number 5, because otherwise, like comics start with like, this is the name of the comic, right? Here's a character usually, like here's what the comic is about. And then all the way at the end usually is the number. So when you're trying to scroll over it in that grid view, you cannot see the number. It's unless you have memorized the cover of number 3, for instance, you just don't know. And so I was sitting there, I clicked into like every one of Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. I was like, issue 7. Issue 5. Until I found the grid view or the list view, and that fixed my problem. But it's a terrible UI. Like, I don't know what the idea is here. Also, is there a way to like group these together? What if I only want to see all of Supergirl? Like in Comixology, I could view it by like
the title,
The
the
t-
title
like-
of the series.
yeah, it would group them all together. It'd be like, oh, I see that you bought all of Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. Here's all 8 issues in like a little section, like a little area together.
The
And you
old
can
Comixology
Click
did
into that. I do not see that function in any way, shape, or form. I can see them in purchase order. So that's somewhat helpful. I can see them by title or author or recent, but that's not always super helpful, especially in the world of comics where like, oh yeah, sure, I'll like filter by this author who's also done 500 other comics. Like, how is that? Thanks. There's like 25 comic book authors and that's it, and they've done everything. So like that's not going to help me too much.
So I just have a question. So you're seeing this through your Kindle too? Like, is that a like an overall everybody has to deal with Kindle now?
So yes, I'm seeing it through the Kindle Cloud Reader is how I'm experiencing it, is the experience I have. Now, I don't have a fancy Kindle. My Kindle is like many generations ago, back when it was like the Paperwhite and like it doesn't go on the internet. It can't even light up at night. My Kindle is simple folk. Salt of the earth. Mike keeps threatening to break my Kindle and then buy me like a real one. And I keep being no. No, it keeps me from scrolling on while I'm trying to read. It doesn't do that because I'll just scroll on my phone. But so my Kindle can't do this. There's no functionality. There's no way that the Kindle that I have can read these comics. So I don't know what the experience is like on a Kindle. But yeah, on the I have like a what's it called, a Surface. So it's basically a tablet. So the experience should be pretty decent, and it was okay. There were a couple times when I like clicked the side and nothing happened. I had to like really hit the side. I was like, excuse me. But other than that, like I didn't love that you couldn't see what page you were on either. That was deeply irritating to me. But like the double tap to go into the what's the mode called when it
Like the
zooms
grid
in
view?
like when it zooms in on each panel?
Is it a grid
How did
view?
you even get two on a page? Could never figure out how to do that.
I don't know. That was just the way that's just the way it did it for me.
So mine pulled it up one page at a time, and I was like, chill. And then when I double clicked on it, it would go into like the panel view where it zoomed in on one panel and then like would go to the next panel. And then if I double clicked again, it would go back out to the page. But I never figured out how to do 2 pages at once. That's unknown to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I just thought that's the way it defaulted. But I'm glad to know about that my list.
This
or
might
whatever.
be how it
My
defaults.
library.
Yeah, now that I'm looking at it on like an actual laptop, this might be how it defaults on a laptop, whereas like on a tablet, it defaults to 1 page at a time.
Yeah.
This is intriguing.
Well, that was pretty typical when I would read on my phone. So the app, the Comixology app also, I think, opens up in Kindle. So the Comixology that we used to know and love is no longer, and it's now basically just the Kindle app to read it. So I'm at least glad to know about the My Library button, because when I tried it the other day, I couldn't find that. I didn't see it. And so I was like, how do I read my comics in this? I see how you buy new comics, sure. But I couldn't find for the life of me how to get to my comics. So at least that button should be, Amazon, if you're listening, My Library should be on the far left.
It should be highlighted. It should be highlighted.
Yes.
Because that's, if you've bought a bunch of comics on Comixology, you've spent your money to buy them, you want to know where they are. That's probably priority 1.
That's like, yeah, that's super important. Yeah.
Well, I didn't realize because I read it on like basically a tablet, and I didn't realize how bad the laptop based experience is. So like it's not the pages are very small. Is there a way to zoom in? There doesn't appear to be.
I didn't try it in the laptop version.
Because I'm too blind for this. Like, I can't.
Maybe there is on the bot. No, that's how many pages you're in.
That's taking you to locations. When
Mm.
I can no. I thought maybe I could right click, like do a little right click situation.
I found that I feel like we're like a bunch of old ladies who don't know how to work technology.
We are.
But I finally figured out how to switch the column view so you can get 1 page or 2 pages. If you click up on the so let me share my screen again.
Yes,
This is all just in case other people have problems with the new Comixology. We wanted to like troubleshoot it on the air for people.
I don't know when this happened, when this change happened, if it was recently or a couple months ago, and we're just like behind the times.
I noticed something weird was happening a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, I'm gonna let it work itself out because maybe
let it settle.
Maybe they're updating something. And I remember seeing a tweet from Patton Oswalt, who was like, "What the heck is happening with Comixology?" And I was like, maybe he's overreacting.
Yeah,
no, he was not overreacting at
like,
all.
why can't I find anything in Comixology? And I was like, that sounds bad.
That's like the number one thing you need. Okay, so if you go into the issue and you click on the text, the font, the little capital A and the lowercase a, then you can go single column, 2 columns. There's at least that. I don't know how to make it bigger in terms of like percentages.
This is weird. So in mine, that is the little A, big A is grayed out.
Why?
I don't know. It's just grayed out. I cannot do it. I can't go to 1 page. I can't make it bigger. It is what it is for me. This is what you have. Are you happy? And I'm like, no, I can't read it. And they're like, all right.
This is making a really great case for buying comics at your local comic book shop.
You should definitely don't give Amazon money. They don't know how to spend it. We've proved that right here. This is it's almost like they didn't test it at all. They were just like, whatever, we're good, right?
And it's with an actual comic book reader might have helped.
Just anyone at all, almost. Like, what do people want? Like, if it's all in one story, they probably want that all together. In the current view, and I've clicked around, there is almost, maybe I'm missing something, but from what I can tell, there is no way to do that. There is no way to group all 8 issues of Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow in one area. It just doesn't exist. I can filter by like the author, and I can filter by the title, I guess. But if I filter by the title, does it give me everything that's in there, or does it just give me individual issues?
Yeah, it's gonna go.
It looks like individual issues, which is not great.
Yeah.
Which is not much better. What if I like say I want to read, I don't know, like Batgirl or something? Like I have to go and like find where it is in this list, and then I have to be like, okay,
you can search for it, Morgan.
Oh,
you can do
okay.
There's a search function up at the top.
Okay. So it's found everything. Everything
related to
in the title. So I just put in Supergirl, and it's found all of the comics that I have that say Supergirl, and also a book that I had, the Girl of Steel book. So there's just that.
Everything.
It's got everything. All my things in one place, just like I didn't ask for.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not real crazy about it. At least now I know where to find my comics in here. The app is a little easier, just because I'm so used to the Kindle app to find those. But I did not like the change on the web browser.
I would suggest, like, if you have a tablet of some kind, that's probably where you want to read it. Like, I'm looking at this. This is the first time I've actually played around with the laptop version, and it's not good. It's not good at all.
Yeah, they should at least have a way to like maximize.
Yeah, just like let me go to one page. Like let me zoom in and zoom out or something. I can do the one panel at a time view, and that's about it.
Yeah. So, well, we just wanted to work that out on the podcast. So in case other
Just sort of
people were like,
live.
I don't know how to find stuff. Hopefully that helps on some level to find your stuff.
Support your local comic book store is what we're
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah, Nicole Green is saying buy that physical media locally. And then Tiana says currently I try to buy everything locally. And only Amazon if I can't find it local. Yeah.
It's the way to
So,
go. It's the way to
yeah.
go.
So
I've never had a physical comic book in my hand and went like, I can't figure out how this works.
I can't figure out how to read it.
Is it upside? Do I do it upside down? Like that's never been a problem for me. Never had this issue. But
You can always zoom in by bringing it
I
closer.
can zoom, enhance. I say as I bring it closer to my face.
Yeah. So new Comixology, not impressed. I
Mm-mm.
preferred the old Comixology. So yeah, maybe we'll just do a series of critical reviews of the Comixology app. Maybe we'll keep an eye on it. Maybe it'll get better. Maybe everybody's going to submit feedback and they're going to improve it.
I'm hoping that like from what I can tell that people aren't loving the new Comixology app, and like maybe that's getting through and they're like maybe we should go and like make some changes. I'm hoping that goes through and like we'll get like those like updates where it's like we fixed some bugs and issues and then things won't be grayed out for me.
Yeah, so we'll keep as we read. Maybe we'll find something that we like about it. I don't know. We'll see. I'm gonna keep an open mind about new Comixology. See how it goes. All right, so let's actually get to talking about the issue that we came to discuss today after our ranting about the changes to Comixology. So we are talking about Supergirl, A Woman of Tomorrow, number 3. And before we actually get into the story, I just wanted to update us here on Supergirl Radio because we had previously been pronouncing one of the main characters of this series as Ruthie because I thought that's how Tom King had done it on our interview with him. He may have said it both ways, but when he said Ruthie, I was like, oh, I guess that's how Tom pronounces it. But he did tweet out on November 16th, 2021. Somebody was basically asking him, so how do you pronounce it? And Tom King said, she's named after my 3-year-old niece, Ruthie. So that's how I pronounce it, but you be you. So that's actually really cute that he's named this character after his 3-year-old niece, Ruthie. So I guess from here on out, I don't know how you were going to pronounce it, Morgan, but
I didn't know either.
So
I'm a toss-up.
So I'm going to call the character Ruthie from now on. So that's how we will do that. So now I've got a funny little animation. We're going to just try to debut, see how people feel about it. It's not a whole lot, but we're going to be talking about Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, number 3. And I think the first thing we should start with is the story of this issue. So we for these comic book reviews, we talk about the story and we talk about the art, because those are the two main components of a comic. So, Morgan, what did you think about the story and the adventure that they go on, Supergirl and Ruthie, in this issue?
Yeah, I liked this issue. I thought it was really dark, actually. I guess it's been a while since I've read any Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. I think the last time we did one of these was during my honeymoon, so I missed it.
Yes,
so I had to
true.
catch up on that issue actually today. But yeah, so I didn't remember, like, this is like a much darker story than I'm used to, specifically with like Supergirl stuff. So I wasn't entirely expecting the dark turn that the story took. So like they go to this small town and everybody seems so sweet and quaint and everybody seems nice until you like ask them like one too many questions and then they get like really defensive,
really aggressive,
like too much. Like the little blue lady at the hotel, I thought was actually the creepiest. Where
so
she
creepy,
was like,
yeah.
She was like, "Oh yeah, this place is so sweet," and then
this is my favorite room. I'm gonna give you my favorite room.
She's like, "It's sweet like pie." And Ruthie's like, "What is pie?" And and Supergirl's like, huh, it's weird. It's like there's nobody signing in under purple. And she's like, do you want the room or not? Like, I was like, whoa.
Okay.
And that was the first indication that something was amiss. But yeah, no, I thought that this one was really dark. I liked the way that Supergirl and Ruthie kind of like went about like investigating, and that Supergirl like couldn't let it go. She was asking about, the, villain that they're sort of following during this comic, Krem. But I feel like
the Yellow Hills.
Krem of the Yellow Hills. He killed my father, prepared to die. But I feel like she would have kept going either way. Like, it was like she couldn't let it go. That, like, how suspicious, like, why did you paint over that thing over here? And what do why is everybody so hush hush about this? Why is everybody unwilling to answer any of my questions? And I also thought it was interesting. So we see some of her powers in different ways in this series because they're in different planets. So she has different access to like Yellow Sun, which I thought has been really fun reading it, going like, what powers does Supergirl have access to? And when she goes to see the I guess he's like maybe the constable or something in that town, he's
like
making
the mayor. Yeah.
He's making his little card
Oh
tower.
no, that's not the mayor. That's some other guy. Yeah.
Yeah, he was like
Well,
like
I
somebody.
don't know. Was it the same guy?
Was he in like the government or like the police or something like that? She's asking him about whether or not he's that they had Krem in jail, it seemingly, and he's like, no, those records are wrong. And then she blows down his card tower. I thought that was hilarious. But yeah, she goes out and she mentions to Ruthie like, oh, that guy's totally lying. Ruthie's like, oh, could you hear his heartbeat and could tell that he was like stressed out? And she's like, oh no, I don't know enough about the physiology of these people to be able to tell when they're lying. He just seemed like he was lying. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point that there are some things that she can't do. She did knock down his house of cards there with her super breath eventually, and she roughed up a table, I think, at one point, and stopped a bullet with her eyeball, which I thought was awesome.
It's brutal.
So I really enjoyed getting to see Supergirl's power in here, and it was a much more serious issue, this one. And I thought it was kind of an interesting way to address what I interpreted as like a commentary on racial issues, because sometimes when people think about racial issues, I guess sometimes they only think about black or white. Well, here it was the blues and the purples. So it was literally different colors of people. So I thought that was an interesting way to, if that was the intent to address real world race issues, that's an allegory that you could definitely do. And the blues sounded really hoity-toity. They were wealthier and more abundant. They considered the purples to be less than them.
Yeah.
And they forced the purples to live in substandard housing in a place called Purple Town. They didn't even give them like a good
Purple
town name. Like, if
Yeah,
you're gonna do it,
come
at
on,
least
man.
be creative on the town name.
I thought it was an interesting point that they were making about how easy it is to do bad things to people once you've like dehumanized them.
Yes.
Like the blues were like, oh, they're not like us. They live over there in Purple Town where we've made them live. So when it came time to, negotiating with these even worse people, the brigands. The brigands, yeah. It was easy for them to be like, no, take the purples. Like, we don't really like them anyway. And I think that that's because, I liked the way that they were sort of presenting it as like, racism or any of the isms or the ovias and like, homophobia, transphobia, racism, all of that stuff makes it easier to dehumanize people, to put them in another section where they're the other. And then once you've done that, it's a lot easier to kind of turn a blind eye to bad things that happen to them. Yeah. And the fact that like the blues then like were whistling along their streets and going about their lives and having like a nice time while there's like a mass grave on the edge of town is really dark.
And they didn't seem to be bothered by it. They got defensive when you would ask them about it, but they didn't seem to have any guilt or shame about that. So they were very Stepford Wife-ish.
Yes.
The way they acted, acting very all together and perfect, but underneath it was very grim.
Yeah, and that's why I think to me the creepiest one was like the little old lady who was running the inn, because she seemed like such a sweet little old lady, and she's like, "Oh, I love this room and people have said so much stuff about this room and that it's so great." But then like the layers start to peel back a little bit when Supergirl asks about the purples, and she goes, "Oh, no, don't worry, no purples have stayed in that room." Why
Red
would that
flag.
be a problem for me?
Who are the purples and what have you done to them?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly where it becomes like, ooh, oh, that feeling is a bad feeling.
Yes. Yeah, and maybe I don't know, maybe I'm rethinking. Maybe they did feel some guilt about things, and that's why they didn't want people to ask them about it. Maybe that made them face what they had done to them.
I think it's easier to just ignore it if and go about your life and say like, well, they kind of deserved it, because we didn't like them as much. When you have to like face it head on, I think that makes it a lot more horrible. And I think people kind of dissociate. Like everybody in the town seemed really nice at first until you find out that they all turn their heads to like genocide, basically.
Yeah, and they
then
all became monsters.
Yeah, and I like that we have the perspective of Ruthie from the future, basically saying like, "Oh yeah, we went to this town and it seemed really great and like we had a great time there." I know me saying that sounds crazy to you because now you all know what happened in that
Yeah.
town, and to imagine anything but like that horror would be crazy. Oh my God, these cats. They're fighting.
They want to chime in about the issue.
The cats are fighting over legitimately what appears to be a drink carrier, like that you would put coffee in,
Oh, okay.
like one of those cardboard drink
yeah,
carriers. They both want it. Neither can have it. It's kind of like a Highlander situation where there could only be one. I think it's mostly okay.
Oh, okay. Well, since you mentioned Ruthie, I was curious about what your thoughts were, because this is a story about Supergirl and Ruthie, and they're both going on this journey together. And I think in some issues, Supergirl might be teaching Ruthie something, and maybe in another issue, Ruthie might be teaching Supergirl something. So what did you think about their relationship and their dynamic in this one?
Yeah, I really like their interplay in this one. I liked that that Ruthie felt scared in this one. Like she seems very like stoic and very like mission oriented and mission focused. And in this one, she almost dies when they attack them at the I think it's at the hotel. And
Yeah, the Blues put out a hit on them.
Yes, again, dramatic. And Supergirl saves her, and I think that she thinks about how many twists and turns life takes to either save you or not, and how she's survived basically because she met Supergirl. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, she says something to the effect of like she was really grateful for that green planet blowing up or whatever she says in that specific instance. Yeah, I love the stuff about Supergirl saving Ruthie from being basically just gunned down in the middle of the night is what it seemed like. And I liked how this issue depicted Supergirl as a real protector, as somebody that Ruthie could trust and could count on. And Ruthie felt safe with her, which I thought was really cool. And there was a line of dialogue that stuck out to me when Supergirl's trying to get Ruthie to hop on her back so they can fly somewhere else. And she says something, I think she says, "These hands can turn coal into diamonds, so they're not going to let go." So she reminds Ruthie, like, "I'm strong enough to hold you on here, so don't be scared." And sometimes I don't think, I guess maybe because I'm so used to the CW TV series that I forgot what it was like for Supergirl to like save someone in a very meaningful way. I hate to say that.
I know. I love that scene where she's also like, "Oh, we've mostly been taking like public transportation."
Yeah.
And I figured it was because, Supergirl had varying levels of powers on different planets. But now I realize that she also didn't want to like scared the crap out of me by by flying really fast. And I think that you see in that one panel where like they are flying in the air, it looks like they're making some time. They are flying really fast. You can see the houses in the background at the bottom are blurring like they're going so fast, which I thought was really awesome from the art perspective. But yeah, you could see how that could be a little bit scary maybe. And she was trying to kind of save poor Ruthie from having to experience that so much, I guess.
Do you think like Supergirl has to deal with turbulence?
Oh my God,
Now-
could you imagine?
Now that I think about that, because I recently was on a plane just a couple of days ago from Washington D.C. and it was some pretty bad turbulence on that flight,
Oof.
and I was kind of freaked out.
Do you think that she allowed Ruthie to take some Dramamine first before they started?
I just wonder now that I'm thinking about it, like, did they encounter turbulence up in the air? Yeah. So I thought their dynamic in this, I almost said episode, this issue, was great because it shows that Supergirl is a hero for helping find the truth about the purples and kind of sticking it to those blue people and be like, y'all did something bad. So she figured out the issue there. But then she also helped protect Ruthie. And so I really liked seeing the side of Supergirl, that she was not only a protector and somebody who could be trusted, but somebody who was smart and who figured out a mystery and didn't really have to rely on someone else. She kind of did it herself. So I really liked seeing that out of Supergirl in this one.
Yeah, I like that. I like that aspect as well. We saw a little bit of that we would see a bunch of that, some of it in the show, depending on what season it was. But it's nice to see like Supergirl investigate things and really get involved in like the local communities. And I think that's one of the reasons that I'm enjoying this run is just seeing her go to different places and get involved and mix it up and kind of sort of bring her, her sense of justice to different situations, even though they're focused on their mission. She still has time to get involved in this terrible thing that happened in this planet. I think it also makes the villain in this series more a little bit more nefarious. It makes him a little bit scarier.
Oh, he helped cause the genocide, the Holocaust.
He did. He did. And before that, I mean, obviously we started with him killing our narrator's father, but then he shot Crypto, which, I mean, listen.
You can't come back for that.
I'll John Wick for him. Crypto, I'm coming to avenge you. But I think like every issue, it seems like this guy, his backstory, he gets a little scarier, a little bit, a little bit more, stressful. It's stressful to know that they're going up against him. He's not just like some guy who happened to shoot Ruthie's father. Now he's like really chill with genocide, basically, and he's the one who talked them into it. And it seems like he would basically do anything to save himself because he's very like himself first. He doesn't really care what happens to other people. He doesn't really care about anything but saving his own hide. So I think that was good character development for our villain too, and taking the villain in a different direction.
Yeah, and Tom King is doing that with very little of him in the story so far. He seems to keep evading Supergirl and Ruthie's ability to track him down, but he is getting a little scarier and doing bad things. And I like that he's not a redeemable villain.
Yeah,
sometimes I just really like my villains to do bad things, and so this guy seems to consistently do that. So I like that. It puts him as the depiction of evil, and our heroes as the depiction of good. So I really like that. All right, so let's. I think we've kind of covered the story, unless there's anything else you wanted to bring up.
No, I think that was most of everything.
Okay.
Yeah, this one was stressful, honestly.
lots of things. Almost attempted murder, Holocaust.
So many things in this one. Oh,
Yeah.
geez.
So I guess we can move on to the art. So did you have any favorite panels or pages in this one?
Everything. I think that the artist, so is it Bilquis
It's
Evely that's doing um
yes.
the art, and then the colors though, Mateus Lopez.
Yes.
Everything is so beautiful in this book. Like even if I wasn't enjoying the story, I would still read it anyway, just for the art, uh, which is not something I say much, but the art is so beautiful. There is, I used to be able to see page numbers on this thing, but
Comixology.
location 8 of 28, um, where she's standing on top of I guess it's the hotel and looking out across the town, and they're sort of set against the backdrop. It's like the colors are so beautiful, and all the detail is so beautiful, and I love the way that they use color in this book to sort of uh, like the night sky seems to be moving in a lot of these shots, and when they're, I think when she's flying through the air, like you can see the ground is blurred at the bottom, but there's also like different colors in the sky. There's yellows and there's pinks and there's blues and purples. I think the way that they use color in this book is so it's just so striking. Like every page really has its own color story, and I think that really helps us like take us through the story. Like when we get to the page where they're talking about the brigands, and all the colors are like, the sort of the fiery colors, but then also like the purples and the pinks, and you see the purple people in the background. It's really striking, like the way that they can tell the story and the mood of the story through the art and the colors. I've been really impressed, like the whole way through, even when she like is protecting Ruthie from the bullets, and you can see them like whizzing by, and the bullets are like these like yellow, like kind of like lights, almost looking like they're coming past, to represent like how close they're coming to Ruthie's face, and how they're hitting Supergirl, but that's no problem because she's Supergirl. Yeah, I think that the art in these books is just so good. Like I just really enjoy the way that the artist and the colorist work together to kind of like build these worlds, especially because every issue it seems like they're going to different worlds, and all the worlds seem very different, and they feel very different. They feel like alien worlds. I think that the creatures that they're creating for these books are always really fun and interesting looking, and I like that they have like fun creating these like different alien races because I just caught up on number 2. And when they were on the public transit, and the people like the aliens sleeping on her shoulder, and then we come to this one, and these terrible blue aliens, but they definitely look very different. Like they've got the big eyes, and they seem really cute until you question them, and then they're like their eyes narrow. I thought that was that was a good choice.
Yeah, in some panels, it looked like it was almost like a rat creature. Like had kind of like a rat like nose and face. So,
Yeah.
that's kind of what I interpreted about the blue people. Maybe they were rats. They were kind of vermin, if you will. But yeah, I mean, the art in this is, if they don't win like a comic art award, I don't know if those exist, but if they don't win some kind of award for this book, I don't understand what is happening.
I know. It's so beautiful. Every splash page looks like it could just be like art that you'd put on your wall.
I would put it on my wall.
Seriously.
You mentioned the page, and according to my Kindle, is page 14. The 2 pages. I guess I'm in the 2-page view. But what I liked about that is the use of the blue and the greens versus the warmer colors, like the oranges and the pinks and the yellows. To me, that was really striking when I was reading it, because, it's like the middle of the night, Ruthie and Supergirl hear something, and then they get attacked by this bullet. And I love the panel where Ruthie is looking at the bullet that Supergirl catches in her hand. She's like, oh my gosh. But the way that transitions from the cooler colors into the warm colors, it kind of gave, because the way I interpreted how Ruthie felt with Supergirl is that she felt safe and she felt secure, and that kind of, when I saw those warm colors, it made me think of like a security blanket, like a warm kind of, like, I feel secure and safe here, and so that warm vibe really helped with that. So I really liked especially those 2 pages for sure. Let's see. I also really liked the visual setup of the House of Cards at the very beginning,
Yes.
because as a reader, I'm like, oh, well, that House of Cards is coming down at some point. Somebody's gonna knock that over. It's gonna come down. And what I liked about how the art played into the story was, the way I read it was, that was kind of a visual metaphor for the actual House of Cards in the town falling down. So
Yeah.
you have like this perception that everything is great and fine until Supergirl comes to town. She not only blows the literal House of Cards down, she blows the facade of what they have done to these purple people, and blows that out of the way so that truth comes out. So I don't know. I thought that was a cool way to visually show what that metaphor was about. And so that's kind of how I interpreted that. Let's see. I had a couple of things. Okay, I mentioned the close up of Ruthie seeing the bullet in Supergirl's hand. And I think we talked about the full page where Supergirl and Ruthie are flying. Yeah, so I think those probably hit all of the pages that I wanted to talk about. But I really enjoyed. I know there's a sense of like using purples and blues for cooler instances where, you might feel literally cold in terms of temperature, or something might be dark. But I thought for an issue where it talked about blues and purples, there were a lot of that. There were a lot of purple uses of purple and the blues in some instances. So I thought that was a good way to utilize those 2 colors in terms of the characters and the race of aliens in the story.
Yeah, I also love I guess it's page 10. I hope. It's location 10. Turn your books to location 10. But it's Supergirl is like flying over top of the kind of the whole town. She's like up on the roof, and her and Ruthie are talking to each other, and Supergirl says, I can see everyone. And I love the facial expressions are so beautiful. But then Supergirl in silhouette in black against the town, as sort of seems like night is falling, is such a striking image. And the way that they use the colors are so beautiful. And she says that everyone in the town is blue against like a blue sky and sort of blue hills. And so it's really pulling that point home.
I have a question for you, Morgan. I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. So in that scene, Supergirl is sort of hovering in the air. Ruthie's on the rooftop. Why do you suppose, like, I guess I was thinking about it and I was like, well, does Supergirl need to be near the roof? Why does she need to be there? She could fly at any height.
Maybe she just wanted to keep Ruthie involved. Let's go on to the roof and you can see things and then I'll see more things.
Yeah, I figured that was the case, that maybe she just took Ruthie up to the roof.
She wanted to keep Ruthie in the mix, I think.
I just thought that was funny because there's another I guess it's a location 9 in the book.
Location 9.
Where she's barely just kind of like hovering over the top of the roof. And I was like, and it took me a second to find that she was hovering, and I was like, oh, well, why?
Yeah,
why
I thought
does
she was
have to do that.
I thought she was just standing, and she was just like a lot taller than Ruthie. I was like, is Ruthie sitting? And then I noticed that she was like hovering a little bit.
Yeah, so I just thought that was a funny question. Like, why does Supergirl have to do that? She could just fly as high as she wanted to. But yeah, I think it was because of Ruthie. Ruthie needed somewhere to go. All right. Well, I guess we could get to some of our overall thoughts. So what did you think about this issue? Would you recommend it to people?
Ooh. Yeah, I really liked this issue. I'm enjoying where they're going with this story and in in this run. And I think that despite this one being really dark, I thought it was done well, and I liked Supergirl being really proactive and looking into, not sort of just accepting like, okay, we're in this like happy little town where everybody's nice except if you ask too many questions. Like as soon as things started to seem a little off, she went and she did some digging, metaphorically and literally, and found the town's dirty secret. And I thought that I think that the story that they told in this one was really strong, and I like that it, it ties into the overarching storyline of the run. But I do think it was like a nice standalone story that kind of shows you that the places that they're visiting aren't all, happy go lucky. They're not all nice, and that there are some really bad people out there in the universe. Among them is our antagonist,
Creme of the Yellow
Creme
Hills.
of the Yellow Hills,
You have to
who
say
would
the full
shoot-
title.
who would shoot a dog.
You can't just stop at Creme. He has to be Creme of the Yellow Hills. You got to give the full title.
Yeah, so I thought this one was I thought this one was good. I was definitely, kept my attention the full way through. And I liked the point it was making about, how when the blues decided that the purples weren't as good as them, it was easy for them at some point down the line. Then the purples had to live in a different area that wasn't as nice. And then at some point down the line, when it's like them or the purples, instead of all coming together and fighting together, it was like, well, I guess you can take the purples.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that thing where, they always say like first they came for, but it was like very much so that. So I think it was making a point about a social issue, in our world, but in a way that made sense for the story and really was impactful, I think, in the story.
Yeah, I don't mind the topical nature of the issue as it is presented, because at least you could read it just as a straight story. Like you could just read it as something about the blues and the purples, and you don't have to like I inserted something into it.
Yeah.
But you don't have to if you don't want to. It could just be a straight story about this
Yeah, it was
these two alien races.
it was metaphor and subtext, right? But it wasn't text, right? At no point did they turn around, they were like, this is about racism. And then they went like back to the story. So yeah, I think that the writing and the art kind of were like, okay, like I think you're gonna get it. You're smart enough to get it.
Yeah. I thought this was a great one, especially for the dynamic between Supergirl and Ruthie. And I thought the way that Supergirl was shown as very heroic and determined, and someone who stood up not only for Ruthie but for the people, the purples of the town, and for what they went through. Because I mean, they were literally like killed and buried. Their skulls and their dead bodies buried underneath this, like Supergirl has to dig under to find their bones and the remnants of what they were. And it's devastating. And so I like seeing that kind of thing out of Supergirl, that she's willing to go the extra step to help people, even if that race of people, even if the purples are long gone, she still wanted to get justice for them.
And I think what's great is that she did apparently get justice for them, in at least the fact that their story got told. And I think that that's something really important in this issue too, because our Ruthie narration is from the future. And she's saying, like, everybody knows that this town did this terrible thing, and everybody knows that this is like not a happy place to be because of, this genocide that went on there. And I think that is really showing the perspective of how important it is to have these kind of stories be told and not just swept under the rug because they make people uncomfortable. Like the blues just wanted to sweep it under the rug, quite literally. And they couldn't, because Supergirl, dug it up essentially. And now it's part of that town. It's something that people associate with it because Supergirl wouldn't give up and had to uncover that story.
Yeah, this series is pretty good so far, so I'm enjoying seeing where it goes. Morgan, since we are live and wired talking about this issue, we do have some. So I started some comments about the issue. So I don't know. Do you want to take some just live chat feedback? You want to run through some of those?
Let's do it.
All right. So do you want to read them or shall
Fancy.
I?
I can read some stuff. Let's
Okay.
put up. So, Nicole says, yeah, the cool, calm versus the warm, dynamic color usage. So, yeah, there is a lot of that, I think, in this issue in particular. Donna says, I love Supergirl. I love the Supergirl and Ruthie flying through the sky page. Yeah, I think that was actually my favorite page. Just, not just because it's beautiful art, but like the colors in that page are so pretty. There's so many colors in there.
I like it when you can feel the motion and
Yeah,
sort of what's
it's
happening.
so cool. Donna says, part of me is enjoying this Meteor Supergirl story. Nicole says, Kara as a John Wick-esque character in an alternate universe. Heck yes. Well, I mean, Katie McGraw is already
Already kind of there.
part of the John Wick universe. I mean, maybe she can give Melissa a call and be like, guess what? This is fun. Nicole also said, at least one day a week, I try to rationalize a physiological explanation for Supergirl's various abilities under different sun wavelengths.
That's above my head in a lot of ways.
I do that too, Nicole, just like you. And finally, Nicole says the difference between this writing and the writing in the CW show is that direct call out to the real world parallel. I prefer the subtle relationship too, which
Yeah,
I think we both agree.
Yeah, I think this so far has hit on some various topical elements, but doing it in such a way that that it's not hitting me over the head, at least for that. So I think we also had. Oh, do you have something else, Maureen?
No, I think there were a couple of snap judgments, but maybe we'll leave those for the. We don't have snap judgments.
We don't have any, but now
so
now
we have them now.
Now we do. So let's get into some snap judgments. In the game of snap judgments, each person is presented with 2 options, but must only choose one. First instincts are recommended, and explanations are unnecessary.
Okay, so our snap judgments are from Tiana. She first asks, you can have your dream job. Would you rather be the author of an epic Supergirl comic or the illustrator, art director of an award-winning Supergirl comic?
So the choice is author.
You're either the writer
illustrator.
or the illustrator.
So what's the difference between the illustrator and the art director? Do we know?
I don't know.
Is that similar?
Imagine they're similar.
I guess we'll just say, would you rather write it or draw it?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I guess
I'm gonna go write because I don't have artistic ability, and nobody wants my stick figure version of Supergirl.
My gosh, I want that so much. I want your Supergirl stick figure.
She would just be like a round head, like a little whoop of blonde hair, and then a cape, and that would be it. That'd be all. Crypto would not be able to be present because I definitely can't draw a dog. He would just have like a little hot dog body and just like a bunch of legs, and no one wants that because that would be scary.
That's exactly what I want for my birthday. So I'm just saying.
Okay, I got it. I'll draw you a Supergirl comic, and it'll just be all stick figure. Supergirl.
Please draw me Supergirl and hot dog crypto is what I want. I just wanted to go on the record that we all want to see that.
We'll put it up on the Instagram.
I think we should. I also cannot draw worth anything. I'm very visual, but I cannot draw. So I think even though I stink at writing too, I think if I had to choose, I'd rather write. I have a lot of ideas. Like I can't actually write the story, but I could come up with the overall picture of the story.
I feel like if an art director was like more of a director-esque role, that you would be really good at that. Like
that's why I was asking. Like if I could help, plot out the panels and things like that, I think I could do that. But if that's not what that is, I definitely have to be the author.
If it's illustrating.
Yes, no, I could not do that.
And then the second snap from Tiana is, this comic is pretty dark. Would you rather have a dark Supergirl story or a lighter, funnier Supergirl story?
I take issues with with people using the word dark because I never know what that means. Does that mean it's a serious story? Does it mean it's a more mature story? Does it literally mean it has no light in it?
I think
I
it
don't
usually
know what that
means
means.
I think people usually use it to mean like dark as being more mature, having like darker themes or being kind of like in the case of this one where it's like about a genocide, like that's a dark topic. It's like meteor and maybe a little depressing too. I think sometimes when we say dark, we mean like this was a little sad.
Yeah, I think I would probably in that case, I would rather see the dark Supergirl story just because I am more inspired by seeing someone go through something hard and coming out of it on the other end and being able to overcome it. So I think that's what I want out of a because Supergirl's origin is dark.
Oh yeah, for
So,
sure.
I mean, like she's not a character who's not been part of dark Supergirl stories. So I mean, I've read lighter, funnier Supergirl stories, and I don't know, they just don't speak to me as much as like the comics from the, I don't know if it was the 70s or the 80s where like she literally has to go up against a Nazi Black Star, look her up with 2 R's.
Oh god.
So like I find more meaning out of those kinds of stories. So I think I would go dark Supergirl story.
Yeah, this is tough because I like having both of those options. It's one of the things I really like about comics in general is just that like they're written by so many different people that you can get so many different stories for different characters. So you can have the lighter Supergirl stories, and then you could also have these sort of darker, grittier stories where they're doing kind of a Western thing here. I don't. It's so hard to pick because sometimes I'm in the mood for one, and sometimes I'm in the mood for the other. But I have to say, after a couple of seasons of like the CW show, I'm kind of enjoying the darker Supergirl story. I will say it just feels a lot different than the take that was on Supergirl the TV show, which is not necessarily to say that I like this better. It's just different. So like after 6 seasons of watching Supergirl on the CW, I'm kind of enjoying this take where she's kind of out there in like the wilds west, and she's a little bit rough around the edges, and it feels like it's interesting. It feels close enough to the character that I know, but different enough that I feel like I'm in a different story. So I'm going to go with the dark one too, I think.
And I think it matters who's writing it. Are they a good writer? I think those those kinds of things matter as well. So just to take that snap a little further, I think it depends on who's writing your funny or dark. Because you could have somebody who's writing a dark story who's a terrible writer, and it could it could be awful. Or you could have somebody who's writing a funny story, and it might not be funny. So
no, you really want it to be actually funny if you're trying to write a funny story.
So it really depends on who is writing it and how well they do. All right. Well, thank you for those snap judgments from the live chat. No judgments on your snap judgments. Nicole in the chat wants a stick figure Supergirl comic contest.
Listen, if you also want to share your stick figure Supergirl art, I think that would be amazing. Definitely send that to us. We will share it.
Hashtag stick Supergirl. Is that a weird hashtag? I don't know.
It feels like it is. But we should do it. Hashtag your stuff. We wanna see it. Tag us.
I don't. Yeah, I don't know.
Crypto.
I'll attempt it. Maybe see what happens. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. All right. Well, that is going to do it for our thoughts on Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow #3. If you haven't bought it yet, Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow #3 is available at your local comic book shop, which is probably the best place to get it.
Where you want to go.
It's also available on Amazon Kindle if you can get it to work and find out what page you're on. Apple iBooks, Barnes & Noble Nook, Comixology. Also, good luck with that. Google Books and Read DC. So I think that's going to wrap us up here. But before we get out of here, we need to get into some Supergirl Radio and some DC TV plugs so you can figure out how to keep up with us. If you would like to contact Supergirl Radio, you can post a comment on our website at supergirlradio.com. You can email us at supergirlradio@gmail.com. If you'd like to leave us a voicemail, you can call us at 678-718-7252. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram, all at Supergirl Radio. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, Podchaser, and Spotify, where we also have a Spotify playlist that includes music featured on and inspired by the CW's Supergirl TV series. We are listed on DC's fan page, which you can find at dccomics.com/DC-fans. If you like what we do, we encourage you to give us a rating and write us a review on Apple Podcasts. If you enjoy our Supergirl Radio live streams, make sure to subscribe to the DC TV Podcast YouTube channel and hit that notification bell to get notified when we go live and wired. DC TV Podcast also has a TeePublic store, so if you're in need of new DC TV related t-shirts, tank tops, sweatshirts, onesies, mugs, notebooks, pillows, or stickers, go to supergirlradio.com and click on the TeePublic store link at the top of the page.
Supergirl Radio is part of the DC TV Podcast Network, so if you also like The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, Black Lightning, Titans, Doom Patrol, Batwoman, Stargirl, Superman and Lois, and the upcoming Green Lantern, Justice League Dark, and Strange Adventure shows, and DC TV After Dark, you can subscribe to the DC TV Podcast Mega Feed on Apple Podcasts. Follow at DC TV Podcasts on Twitter, and like DC TV Podcasts on Facebook, or else. This has been a message from Hope, inhabiting the Flash vessel, also known as New Rachel.
And since we talked about comics this week, we have some comic-related designs in the DC TV Podcast TeePublic store.
Yeah, go check out some of our merch in the TeePublic store. Every now and then it goes on sale, so keep your eye on that.
I like that shirt that says "Make Your Own Continuity." They took that much too seriously on the CW version.
You want to tell your own story, but don't stray like too far.
They're like, thanks, Crisis.
Yeah, so you could do that if you had a Crisis on Infinite Earths and you needed to play around with it. But just be prepared for your entire world building to fall apart. Okay, so we would like to thank our legion of super sponsors for supporting Supergirl Radio. These people are Michael, Sam, Anne Marie, Yvonne, Quinn, Nicola, Leslie, Abby, Ermgard, Miriam, Nicole, Lizeth, Faith, Brian, and Ethan. If you would like to become a legion of super sponsor, you can go to patreon.com/Supergirl Radio. We have 4 tiers of monthly memberships, and we appreciate you keeping the Supergirl Radio lights on for the podcast. And if you want to keep in touch with me, you can find me on Vero, which is a social media platform that I love, where I share what I'm watching, if I ever get to read, what I'm reading, what I'm listening to. In terms of music, they don't have a podcast option, which I really wish they would add that in there, but you can see what music I'm listening to if you want to. So it's a great way to share what you're into with other people and get to see other people's recommendations. So if you go on Vero, I'm at Derby Kid there. I'm also on Instagram at The Derby Kid. I have some new pictures from a trip to Washington, D.C., and I also have some reels. Been trying, keep trying to play around with some reels, trying to get better with that. So if you want to see my experimentation there, check me out on Instagram. I'm also at youtube.com/duckmilkprod. I'm getting back into my BVS reviews because I took 2 weeks off. So I'm trying to get back in so I can actually finish this project within at least 10 years. So if you want to hear more about film analysis and art criticism, really is what I'm talking about, you can come check me out on Sundays at 9 p.m. Eastern over there at youtube.com/duckmilkprod.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Mojotastic. You can also find me as a co-host on the Legends of Tomorrow podcast, where we're going to be talking about the finale of season 7 of Legends of Tomorrow.
Wow, that's already happened?
I cannot believe it, honestly. When will season 8 happen? It hasn't been renewed yet, but I think based on the odds, it's going to be in about 2 weeks. So hold tight. They don't want us to have a break ever. So we'll be doing the finale, and that should be really fun. We're really excited. We've actually been really enjoying this season a lot, which
good.
you can't often say about season 7 of a TV show. So we're just enjoying the ride. And then you can also find me on DC TV After Dark, where we are recording perhaps this week. Perhaps. I make no promises. I tell no lies. And yet maybe this week.
That's very exciting. Can't wait to see if possibly we get some more DC TV After Dark. And I keep forgetting to mention on the podcast that I'm still plugging my friend Mike's Make-A-Wish link. So if you want to help my pal Mike out, who is a big DC fan, who actually got me into reading certain comics like Teen Titans, you can click in the video description of the live stream and in the audio show notes. You'll be able to see his fundraiser link. So if you'd like to help him raise funds for a great organization, click on that link and help him out. So I just want to give that a shout out before we got out of here. But I think that's going to do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio. But until next time, I think I'm still Rebecca Johnson. I think you are too. That seems right.
And I'm still Morgan Glennon, and we hope that you will check out Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, and support Supergirl Comics.
McGurk! I love typing.
Not mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira. I love that. So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom, because her outfit.
She looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. It's so fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Yeah!